Hello, everybody. It's 6:14 a.m. Central Time on the 16th of November, 2024. It's Saturday morning here in the United States and doing an earthquake update. Haven't done one in a few weeks, actually. We're going to get this recorded and uploaded to YouTube and over on X. So let's get a screen capture turned on here so that we can see what I'm looking at a little bit better. And we'll start over here looking at the current large earthquake of the week so far. We have a 6.6 that struck over in the West Pacific. You see it here. Let me get all the other smaller earthquakes off there. There it is. There's the 6.6. Now, that 6.6 is centered nice and neat in between our sets of deep earthquakes that are raised high off the planet here. You can see the deep earthquakes easily because they're raised high up. The higher they are off the planet, the deeper they are down into the earth if you're not aware of earthquake 3D. So this earthquake centered in between these, and it's up towards the surface. So this is a shallower, larger earthquake. Now, the Australians have it reported in at, what do they have it at? 6.6. I think it went up as high as 6.9 when it was originally reported. Let's go see what the USGS has. They have it at 6.6 as well. And I'll show you where the earthquake is on the USGS map. So these red lines are boundaries between plates, but just think of each red line as a crack that goes from the surface all the way down to the underside of the plate. And the earthquake struck right here in the middle on the plate boundary of the northeast side of the Indo-Australian plate. India, Australia, Indo-Australia. Right here. Okay, so deep earthquakes on one side, deep earthquakes on the other, and then in between the two, up at the surface, we get a shallower, larger earthquake. Now, the same should be happening over to the west between our other sets of deep earthquakes. So we have a deep earthquake up here at Japan, for instance, right on our letter D, which stands for deep earthquakes, in case you didn't know. We have our letter Ds placed out here. These are static on the map. We do not move the letter Ds. These are forecast area points where we look for new deep earthquakes to happen. And right here on our D to the north, there it is. Now let's go to the USGS map again really quick. Go back over and take a look. Oh, wait, wrong page. There we go. So over here, up by Japan, our other deep quake. So now you really get the picture that there's something going on below Fiji, below Indonesia, and below Japan. And those three areas are tied to the Indo-Australian plate and, of course, the West Pacific as a whole. Something's going on down below here. Now, we can also see there's a few other deep earthquakes going out over to the west, raised off the planet. Our letter D here at Afghanistan, struck by a deep 4. And then look, Italy, a deep 4. The exact same size, too. Deep 4.2 here, deep 4.2 here. We go back over to our other deep 4.4 to 4.6. They're all within a hair of a point of each other. Something is really going on from here all the way over to here. And from here all the way over to here to our other letter D on the opposite side of the plate. So back to it one more time. Something's going below Fiji, Indonesia, Japan, Afghanistan, Italy, and all the way over here on the opposite side of the plate, right at the Argentina-Bolivia border. And what is that? Something's going on below pretty much 3/4 of the planet at this point. This means shallow or larger earthquakes are on the menu for the next several days, going into the next 7 to 10 days. We're going to be seeing shallow or larger earthquakes pop off between our sets of deep earthquakes. And the more deep earthquakes there are, the more it's letting us know that something's going on. It's almost like a trail of earthquakes going across from Europe all the way back over to where it's coming from, over to China at the Myanmar border. So let's show you what's from Italy back to the Myanmar border and why there's a trail of earthquakes going right across there like a path. Take a look. Myanmar, China, going right across all the way over to Italy. Now, this is the USGS map. It's showing us the last 24 hours worth of earthquakes. Notice anything? We have to use multiple agencies to get the feed because USGS is deliberately ignoring some of the earthquakes and the others are from yesterday, which doesn't show up on their 24-hour feed. So you have to look at 2 days worth of quakes. And when you do, you'll see there's a path going from here all the way over to here. And really, there's a wave that's bouncing back and forth between here, and then it goes back right to here, to the West Pacific. Let's go back and look one more time. A wave bouncing around back and forth in here, and then boom, going down around the bend of the plate. That takes us back to where our big earthquake was. Okay, so this is just the update. Now, what are we going to look for? We're going to look for the next magnitude up. 1 magnitude larger, that means 7.5, 7.6, somewhere in the mid-range. 7 is going to be due in the next 7 to 10 days in the West Pacific between our current sets of deep earthquakes. 1, 7, and then another 6.5. So I think the next 7 should be striking here in the middle point between our sets of deep earthquakes. That puts North Philippines, South Taiwan into the picture. A huge earthquake for them. And then the 6.5 should be striking over to the west, over right here in between our sets of deep earthquakes, or on the edge of our sets of deep earthquakes, in between our current sets of earthquakes, right at Bali going to East Timor into Java. And let me show you how I'm coming to that determination. So, deep earthquakes below Fiji, Indonesia, Japan, Afghanistan, Italy. 7 point something should be striking right here in the middle in between our sets of deeps. Then we should see the wave also going out over to the west. Should see a new 6.5 striking right here where the plate boundaries come together. And that's literally just the halfway point between our pink earthquakes here and our white earthquakes here from today. Pink from yesterday, white from today. Halfway point between those 2 points, boom, right in the middle. That's Bali. As we go over to the west, we have to warn Italy. So let's go all the way over to Europe, and we have to break off a warning from South Italy over to Greece, as far north as Central Italy, Norcia, and as far south as the Ionia Range off the coast of western Greece. And magnitude on this should be up to 5.2 to 5.5. It's enough to knock down buildings in those areas. We've seen 3s take down buildings in those areas. A fatality even on a 3.0 range earthquake in western Italy. Now, also, I'd like to point out the location of this earthquake. We cannot ignore the location of this quake. So what's at the location? Let's get the coordinates from GeoPhone Potsdam and go put them in on trustworthy Google Earth and go see what's there. And let me just get that open really quick. As it opens, let me tell you, down here in South Italy, there's been something going on. Now, we're not at the location directly, Campi Flegrei, the super volcano that's been coming back to life in South Italy that's led to evacuations all around the volcano itself and talk from the professionals that it could erupt. I'm not saying it's going to erupt. This is from the professionals. And here, again, we are so close, guys. We are right next to it. So Campi, I said right here. Right here is Campi Flegrei. Going down to the south, we have other old blast calderas that are yet, I don't even think they maybe even have names. So we do have other eruptive points going all the way down through South Italy. I mean, this is a well-established fact. Off the coast, you've got Stromboli, you've got the others volcano, and then, of course, we have Mount Etna to the south. We're sandwiched between the two, so we're not directly at Campi Flegrei. Let's get our mileage on that just to see how far we are. I mean, generally speaking, we're 100 miles. For my European viewers, that 161 kilometers away. And that's a hop, skip, and a jump, geophysically speaking, away from the supervolcano. Let me put it this way. If we get a 4-point-something earthquake next to 100 miles away from Yellowstone here in the United States, I associate the earthquake with Yellowstone overall. Now, there's something else here, aside from the supervolcano. Let's go back and show you what's over in Italy. All the way over here, following the red lines, the plate boundaries, it's a J-shaped plate boundary. Let me make sure you can see this. J-shaped plate boundary here. And right here, down below it, something's going on. 4.2 earthquake. Next to it, that's where the 5.2 should come up. But when I say next to it, well, I have to look on both sides. Again, if something's coming up from down below here, where do you think it's going to go? It's going to go up to the surface and spread out. And if it goes up and spreads out, it only has 2 ways to go. Up and out to the east, up and out to the north. You could say it could go to the west. That's a third possibility on this, but I'm looking for a break to happen in here. The wave is trapped. Let's show you one more time. The wave is trapped between China and Italy, down below in the plate, coming up to the surface here and there, but like a stepping stone path where it's coming up, it's like a wave spreading through a lake. So the halfway points between our current earthquakes are going to pop off with a greater earthquake. And so that should, a wave reflecting back into itself like a standing wave, should reflect right back into the plate boundary, and we should get a break right back behind this new deep quake. The potential exists that it could go up the plate boundary, up into Italy, and we would see our 5 strike in Italy. I'd be very surprised if we saw our 5 over to the west, over in Algeria or Tunisia or North Morocco or South Spain. If we saw it over here, I'd be surprised. I think it's reflecting back into itself. That's evidenced by the actual earthquakes over the last 48 hours. And it should go up to mid-range 5. So let's recap. We should see a mid-range 7 in the next 7 to 10 days, most likely striking between our current sets of deep earthquakes, and that puts North Philippines and South Taiwan into the mix, or Central Philippines to Taiwan into the mix for the big earthquake. Then we should see something like a 6.5 striking between our halfway points, and that puts Indonesia for a semi-large quake to strike. And then going all the way across over to here, we see a 5.5 striking most likely southeast of Italy. But like I said, I have to warn everybody from central Italy down to the coast of Greece, with this being the center. I don't think we're looking at a super volcano eruption, knock on wood. Let's go ahead and get this in for my Australian viewers, guys. You saw a rare earthquake down here a few days back. Check it out. Look at southeast and southwest Australia. 4.0 earthquake down by Perth, 4.2 over by Sydney, or, well, Sydney, Melbourne area, the whole area from Kangaroo Island all the way over to the eastern coast of Australia. And then coming back up to the northwest, this is where it all came from last week. You saw your 5.0 range earthquake up here off the coast, letting us know a wave was coming in, and then an equal division of 4s on both sides, southwest and southeast. Told you guys to look for this 1,000 times at this point. I have not needed to be on for the last 2 weeks. If you're watching the progression, you'll see we're sticking to the arrows perfectly on all sides of the plate. This is the last 5 days worth of quakes. I'll show you the rest in a second. So what are we going to look for in Australia? Well, we're going to go the next magnitude up. You're going to see a 5 in Australia most likely in the next few days. Come on, look all the way down at our letter X south of New Zealand. X marks the spot, hit right next to it, 5.4 to 5.5. You got your 5.4s and 5.5s up here to the northeast, right here. And you got your 5.5 over here to the west, 5.4 to 5.5. And then in the middle, 6.6. And one more time, let's go look at Australia. So you've got down here, south of New Zealand, where the plate boundaries come together, 5.5. You got a 5.5 up here. You got a 6.6 here. You got another 5 over here. There's a wave trapped in between here, and it's trying to go across, and you've already gone up to 4s. You're going to go up to 5. Now where? Let's go back and figure out our halfway points between all our sets, or a triangulated point, if you want to think of it like that, between our current sets of earthquakes. So you've got 3 sets of quakes down here to the southeast. Where do all 3 sets of rings overlap? Somewhere right here. So right smack in the southeast middle of the plate. I don't even know what the nearest town is. Again, our nearest cities are to the south. You got Melbourne and Sydney to the south and Kangaroo Island to the west. Just literally where the green meets the tan, right where all 3 sets of rings overlap. I don't know the name of the area right there, but if you're in Australia, you'll know where I'm talking about just by zooming in on it. Over to the west, we find our halfway point between our earthquake down here at Perth and all the way back up here. We have to go around the edge of the plate. So Exmouth should be getting hit. And we're going to go with a 5 to the southeast and a 4 to the northwest. Why am I going with that? We're going next magnitude up. So if you're at 4s now, 5s over to the east. Hold on, let's get that back on the screen there. There we go. So if you're at 4s now, you're going to go up the next step. You're going to go to 5s, down to the southeast. And if you're at 3s and 2s on the west side of the plate, you're going to go up next magnitude over to 4. Let's go across over into Central and South America. We'll get into the United States last. So this past week, pretty big earthquake struck, guys. It was a 6.9 to 7.0 range earthquake. They brought it down to 6.8. It struck here, south of Cuba, causing major damage. Now notice where the large earthquake at the start of the week, where it struck. Notice the rest of the quakes throughout the week. Here, we'll look at 3.0 and greater. Notice anything about where the big earthquake is? How about it's equidistantly spaced on all sides by 5s going up to 5.8 to 5.9. 5.8 to 5.9 over here, 5.8 to 5.9 here right in the middle, then followed by a 6.8. Now, I made a post on this over on X, and I got community noted that night before. When this 5.9 and this 5.8, 5.9 struck, these two earthquakes struck first, the 5.8s to 5.9s, many, many hours before. Take you over to Cuba and show you where they struck. So we had a 5.9 strike in Cuba and a 5.9 strike over in Panama. What is that? Well, you see the red lines. This is the plate boundary. One side of the plate boundary over in Cuba, 5.9, and then Panama. I think Panama was first, actually. Panama, then Cuba, 5.9s, back to back. And then a 5 to the west and a 5 to the east, equidistantly spaced. You see them here. This big earthquake was not on the screen at the time. These areas were. So when those areas all were moving, I took a screenshot of it, made a post on it, and I laughed. I posted little laughing emojis with crying laughing emojis, and all my viewers know why I'm doing that over on X. I'm not allowed to talk about earthquake forecasting, really, without getting harassed by the community for talking about it. Whatever. Anyway, took a screenshot of it, posted it in the middle of the areas where everybody who's a viewer of mine would know to watch. And then the next morning, I woke up and there's a 6.9 in the area that struck. Those were foreshocks that were striking in the area. Let's go back and look one more time. Panama to Cuba, foreshocks, 5.9s. Then next morning, boom, huge earthquake right in the middle on the plate boundary to the north. Those were warning signs ahead of time that there's a wave bouncing around in here, reflecting into itself. And when a wave reflects into itself, in a closed tank like this, think of this like a wave tank, and a wave is trapped in here, and Mother Nature is pumping more energy in from the west, from the Pacific, and it's pumping it into this tiny little wave tank, and it's building in energy as the wave is reflecting back and forth into itself. Standing waves seek out the middle points between the previous waves to come up at their next break point, if you want to call it that, and that's what happened here. So I didn't have to make posts on it. My longtime viewers knew to watch. And look at which way the arrows point. So first we had the earthquakes over here at Panama. Then we had the earthquakes over here at Cuba. Then it reflected into itself. And the middle point got hit with a huge quake. Now, since then, the white-colored earthquakes are where we've spread. So now look where it's spreading. The wave, the break, has spread over to the east. And we're getting an outbreak of 4s and 5s over in the Eastern Caribbean, over on this side. So first a break over here, wave bouncing around back and forth, builds into a larger quake, now is spreading over to the east. So we should see activity on the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. Look what happened today. Mid-range 5 striking down south of RX. Now this is over here, there's a volcanic island, one of the only volcanic islands that comes up above the surface out here, right in the middle of the Atlantic. That's Ascension Island. And let me just pull the coordinates on this, and we'll go put them in on, again, trustworthy Google Earth, and go see what's at the location. We'll wait for the feed to refresh here. It's important to look these things up. If you get a chance to look them up, you should look them up. Uh-oh. Looks like I just lost my internet connection for a second there. Uh-oh, are we back to that? Hey, I'm not talking about anything controversial. I'm showing you what I found over the last 15 years of research. There's no denying that there's some kind of wave going around back and forth and striking at the middle points. I just shut off my internet. Yeah, my internet's been shut off. Look, Google's been cut. Google Earth's been cut. Okay. Am I still streaming or am I completely off? It doesn't matter. Luckily, look at this. I'm recording. So it doesn't matter if my stream gets cut or my internet gets cut. I'm still on. It just says I'm on. I'm on Starlink. I'm on Starlink. All right. Well, let's try and reopen Google Earth and see if that just reconnects somehow. And if it doesn't, so be it. I'm trying to do an update for you guys to show you what's happening. Okay, it is reconnecting. Let's try this one more time. It's what happens. It's technology. You get shut off in the middle of your broadcast. Sound familiar? It's been happening a lot lately online. Well, it's not that there's not underwater measurements, guys. It's that it's not loading. All I'm trying to do is show you Ascension Island, which exists. It's not a big deal. I'm just showing you the earthquake is striking on the plate boundary next to Ascension Island. But, again, It is what it is. Okay, well, if that's how this update's going to go, let's just quickly go look at the United States and just tell you quickly. The earthquakes are going down across the edge of the craton. Take a look at our large earthquake, 4.3. This struck in our warned area that I talked about in my update 14 days ago. We talked about watching this area. Let's go take a look and see it. Mina, Nevada. We are back online now. Our internet is back. Let's go put in the coordinates and go look it in. Maybe it's somebody with a dial that has to sit there and say, okay, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised at this point. All options are on the table when it comes to this internet thing. All right, Mina, Nevada. Here's the California-Nevada border, and we've got our volcano place marks. You see this? Now, Monte Cristo Hills Volcanic Center experienced a 6.5 earthquake 4 or 5 years ago, and a surface fissure fracture formed. Go try saying that several times fast. A surface fissure fracture formed, and a crack in the ground that went all the way across this area over towards here, where I didn't even realize it, but there's these old quarries that defy the laws of time, and tailing piles that are piled up from a time long past. I guess it's when the Spanish had their heavy earth moving equipment out here back in the 1700s or something. Well, we got a surface earthquake that happened here and a crack that went right across over towards these quarries. Then a series of sixes struck over by the quarries, down below them, of course. And that's where we are now with the new quake. Now, of course, there's so many volcanoes there. It's just, a whole cluster of them. But I'd like to point out the super volcano next to this, which is Long Valley Caldera, with 1,000 cubic kilometers of melt measured down below it. Now, next to it, over here on the east side, is not a super volcano. But you see there's a ring of marked volcanoes here in what looks like an oval shape. Now, you'll see that a lot here, like, for instance, this. A series of bulging laccoliths that form a ring. Some of them have burst in the past, black and red igneous rock and basalt at the surface. And then other spots where it just bulged but did not erupt. Now, this is the same size as the supervolcano there. And these are the same size as the supervolcano here as well. What does that mean? It means down below here, from here to here to here, are 3 weak points, and there's a feeder for all three that's about the same size, I would say. Just a guess on that, but that's why the earthquake is striking there. The wave is coming in and going to there and getting trapped in those chambers, thus breaking in those chambers before it spreads to the east. The wave spreads to the east, and where does it follow? It follows this. Take a look at that. Now look at the earthquakes over the last 7 days, and I'm going to turn off all the numbers so you can just see the actual earthquakes over the last 7 days. Notice anything about where the earthquakes are? This is 0.0 and greater from the USGS. Notice how they go down through Texas and up the East Coast, right? This is one of my biggest discoveries when I first started, that there's a spread of earthquakes that goes across things as opposed to just being random. And if there's a spread of earthquakes that goes across something, there's something that's going across first that's causing the quakes. It's not one earthquake causing the other like dominoes. It's that all these earthquakes are being caused by something else that's going across the plates, and this something else, this wave, is dropping off the earthquakes along the way as it bounces around in the plate. And that wave is vibrating up from the West Pacific with those deep earthquakes that I talked about at the start of this update. So take a look at the graphic one more time. This is the last 7 days worth of quakes, and it goes down through Texas and up the East Coast. I showed this to professionals. They first accused me of faking the earthquakes to make it look like there was a spread going across the plates. And then after I got into it with a series of professors, they said it was chance. This is, 13 years ago at this point? They said it was chance that it was going down through Texas and up the East Coast. They did not want to admit, and still won't, that there's a spread of anything going across anything, because that means there's not randomness to this, that there's some organization. And if there's organization, let me put it this way. If you know that something's spreading from one spot to the next, generally speaking, and you know which way it's generally going, so to speak, and you can see that by the earthquakes that are dropped off along the way, then you can calculate where it's going to go next, much like a flood. And professionals went nuts on me for showing this. So here we are now, one more time. The spread of the earthquakes is obviously matching the edge of the craton. And this means that there's a wave that's being guided along the edge of the craton. And then we can look up the locations that are being hit and find out why they're being hit. So there's a wave that's going across here, down through here, over, up, and here. But why is it hitting at these locations as opposed to other locations? Well, you look up the spots, and you're going to find out most of them have something interesting at the location. Well, let's go look this up. Let's go look up this little microquake up in Washington, 0.2 kilometer depth. Why is it striking here as opposed to over at Mount St. Helens, for instance? Do you want to know? I want to know. Let's go look it up and see what's there. See if there's anything that could be leading to the cause of the earthquake there. Why would a wave seek out this spot? What's this? What's this road? What's this? This is the Hanford Nuclear Waste Storage Facility and the LIGO Gravity Wave Sensing Station. LIGO, where the long lasers that bounce back in and they look for vibrations on the lasers to measure gravity waves, but it's pointed at a right angle to this, where they're storing. This is a Superfund site, and these are the old reactors, the experimental reactors they did during Manhattan Project. And this is also a spot where they have underground tunnels where they store radiological waste. Gravity waves, just so happens they're measuring gravity waves from across the universe at this location. So what's going on there? Well, very low frequency electrical, ultra low frequency, extremely low frequency, ELF, VLF, ULF in the plate. Electrical from stored radiological that's emitting electrical charge. Gets taken into the plate down in the crust. You get a small series of microquakes that break out around these locations. Also, power plants, whether they're nuclear power plants, whether they're gas, coal fire, wind, solar, we see the same thing happen next to power generation facilities, both big and small. Now, there's a line of earthquakes. You can see it. It's a diagonal line. It goes across Montana down directly into Yellowstone Park and dead ends into Yellowstone pretty much. All the earthquakes just point like an arrow almost down into Yellowstone. I'm going to turn back on something one more time. Take a look at the Craton graphic in the northwest. Up at Montana, going down into Yellowstone. The top left black arrow points right in to Yellowstone itself. Now, you'll see the Craton edge goes up into Canada, doesn't it? It's a brownish color that goes across the brown versus purple. Now, the earthquakes over the last 48 hours match that edge perfectly, do they not? So remember where the Craton edge goes. It goes down through Texas. And then we're going to go look at the earthquakes. So a line of earthquakes pointing right down, following, going this way. And look what picks up down at the bend, where the wave gets bent and twisted back up to the northeast, following it like a waveguide almost. Same-sized earthquakes, and all of these, every single one of these earthquakes across Texas, southeast Texas, west Texas, central Texas, going up into Oklahoma, every single earthquake is next to a drill point. And I'll just pull the biggest of the bunch out of these and we'll go look it up so you can see it for yourself. But the edge of the Craton has been drilled, and that's why the wave is seeking out these spots. Now, I think if humans had not drilled down where I'm about to show you here. I mentioned power plants, by the way, right? Look at all this. This is all solar power generation. But right next to like some kind of green energy write-off, this is where our drill points start for oil and gas. And we go into insane amounts of drilling. Texas is known for this. You guys, I mean, most people know about Texas being the oil and gas hub of the world, more than Saudi Arabia by far. These are all drill points for oil and gas. Now, notice the earthquake is coming over on the edge of the Craton. Now, I think humans, with the drilling, the wave has sought out the drill points. If humans hadn't drilled, the wave would have sought out this. The giant volcanic fields down at the Mexico-Texas border, and that nobody even talks about. We don't even have a name on this one. It's Big Bend Ranch State Park, but you can see our past blast calderas, lava fields, so forth there. That's and then we have more across the Mexico border on this side. I just point that out. Again, we have huge volcanic fields across here, and Mother Nature would have sought these areas out at the bend point in the plate as opposed to the drill points. So by humans putting drill points in here, perforations in the plate that come up to the surface, Mother Nature had fracture points that came up from down below towards the surface. One led to volcanic eruptions, the other leads to earthquakes. I don't know which is better. I guess the earthquakes, right? So the wave goes down across through Texas and bent up the east, following the edge of the craton. This is not a river. This is a 1,000-foot bulge. We go up from 400-foot elevation here to 1,400-foot elevation here. And we're 400-foot elevation here, and we're 1,400-foot elevation over here. All the way around, bending back up and going back up the craton. This way, the Continental Divide, through back up to our earthquakes in the northwest. So you can literally trace the earthquakes going back up to the northwest. Like I said, every single spot's a different drill point. Do I need to show you Midland, Texas, where George Bush is from? There's so many there. It's a million drill points across the area. I could just literally just glide my mouse over the area and show it to you. Let's do that really quick just to prove it to you. We'll go back down to Midland, Texas. Right through here. See, there's Midland. Going from Fort Stockton to Midland. I'm just going to zoom in randomly in the middle. Now, at this level, it kind of looks like farm fields, which I guess it was at some point, but you see all the little specks on the ground? Every single one of these is a different drill point for oil and gas. I'm not against oil and gas at all. It's just, this is why they're getting hit. They're drill points. There's a whole bunch of them, perforations on the surface. You see how many there are, and the wave is coming down and trying to go across, and it's finding those. It's seeking out a path of least resistance to release some of the energy up out of the plate. By the time some of the energy does release, it gets up to Oklahoma, and we're at the Oklahoma-Kansas border. Now, keep in mind the energy is coming in from the northwest, so it's trying to go down, around, and over. And we get the biggest of the bunch, striking from the northwest, a 3.1 at the Oklahoma-Kansas border, which I will pull the coordinates on next. Uh-oh. It looks like I lost my internet again. Boy, I all of a sudden, what do we got? We got one of those high-power military balloons in between me and the Starlink satellite all of a sudden? Is that what's going on? You got to be kidding me, man. Seriously, look, it just died. Whole thing just froze and died. Wait, is it frozen? All right, let's try it again. Let's try it again. Oh, now it's back. All of a sudden, having a lot of technical issues between me and the satellite. I have unobstructed straight to space. Okay. People tell me when this used to happen, when I was live on my landline, people used to try and say it was people's cars hitting drunk drivers at night and stuff, like check your router, Dutch, that kind of gaslighting me on my shutdowns. All right, I'm trying to show you oil pumping operations. They're going to freaking shut me off, right? This happens so many times. Now, and again, I'm not going off on oil and gas. It's not their fault. It's not the oil and gas company's fault. They're not even doing anything wrong. It's a wave going through the plate that would have sought out these spots anyways. I'm not trying to defend the oil companies either. But it would have already struck here anyways. Look at all the folds and bends in the plate. And let me show you. Right next to it, if humans hadn't drilled in, look what's here. Old volcanoes, Crater of Diamonds State Park. So Mother Nature used to seek these spots out and break with a volcano or a huge earthquake, and all these perforation points are just the wave is seeking out those spots as the wave is spreading across the plate. So it's not the oil pumping operation and gas pumping operation causing the earthquake. It's that it's, well, like a precipitating factor. It's like putting a cutout area in the side of a river and then it fills up with water. I mean, we're not shocked when that happens. So the wave comes down through Texas, goes up to the northeast. Right here at the bend point in the plate, we're going to turn on the Craton graphic one more time. Look at Oklahoma and Arkansas, where the J-shaped bend in the rusty brownish color there goes down and around back through Oklahoma. And then we get to the N-shaped bend in the plate here for the New Madrid seismic zone. Pretty easy to remember that there's an N-shaped bend in the plate here. Now, the river valley, the Mississippi River Valley, that's erosion here from here south, but you can still see it in the mountains itself going up and around. That's the fold in the craton. Mother Nature, in the past, would get caught up here and reflect into itself. The wave coming in, reflecting into itself. And you can even see in the plate, let me show it to you, turn off everything here. The wave would come in, go down, around, and up and hammer into the New Madrid seismic zone. And you can see where it would break and go up into the Wabash Valley seismic zone. These are the mountains, guys. Bent and twisted like molasses over a long period of time. And it would break this way like a flowing river that forks two ways. So this wave coming in, goes down, hits the drill points in Texas, goes back up, hits the drill points in Oklahoma, is forced over to the east, the wave is, by the edge of the craton, and it gets over to the New Madrid seismic zone, where it reflects into itself, and it builds in this area, and that's why you got volcanoes down here, where it's going to reflect back. And now, some of the energy tries to make its way up the East Coast. And what happened over the past several days? Let's go back and take a look. Look at that. A line of earthquakes going on the edge of the craton up the East Coast. And where did we strike? Do you guys want to go look on the East Coast? Look at our only earthquakes for the last 4 days on the East Coast. Where are we? Califone, New Jersey. Now, this was previously called White House Station. This is where the biggest earthquake in the last 10 years struck this year. In April, a 5.0 earthquake struck here, below, right down below here. You see? Look where we are. We're on the east coast of the United States. 5.0 earthquake strikes here in New Jersey. It was felt as far away, all the way up in New York. It was felt all the way down the coast, and the center of it being right here. When the 5.0 earthquake struck, it was listed as White House Station. White House Station, 5.0, biggest earthquake in the last 10 or 15 years on the East Coast, 10 years. Now, I zoomed in and I saw this, Bedminster. See that? It says Bedminster. Now, we're going to zoom in some more. And there's a golf course here. Now, the earthquake struck on the west side of the golf course, down below it, of course, a 5.0 earthquake. Now, you're going to see this is the Trump National Golf Course at Bedminster. The former DeLorean car company owner's site. The DeLorean guy with the Back to the Future car, he previously owned the estate, and then Donald Trump bought it. And then we get our biggest earthquake on the East Coast in the last 10 to 15 years, and it strikes below Trump's golf course on this side. I was the only person to make note of the earthquake below Trump's golf course to date. I have not found any videos or any post. If you find them, you can correct me on this, but I looked. Nobody talking about it. I was the only person. Really freaky. Because it's the biggest earthquake in the last 10 years, below Trump's golf course. Then the earthquake spread. That was in April. May, June, July, August. Boom, 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 boom. Earthquakes going over to Hell Mountain Preserve over here. And the USGS changed the location triangulation from being White House Station to this Califone location. Now, Hell Mountain Preserve, back over to Trump's golf course. Let's get our mile measurement on here just to see how far we're talking in, well, here's kilometers. We're 6 kilometers or 4 miles total distance from the actual golf course, and the original 5 striking somewhere, or at least reported somewhere right in here. So we're talking about 2 to 4 miles distance and going on somewhere down below here between Hell Mountain Preserve and Trump's golf course. I mean, isn't that interesting that nobody would talk about that? So why did the earthquakes seek out Trump's golf course? Again, we get into a troubling concept of very low frequency, ultra low frequency, blasting in the plate, hiding of earthquakes, all kinds of shady stuff that we don't want to talk about, right? But I have to tell you, because I look up the quakes and find out these locations, I was really weirded out when I found out that nobody wanted to talk about the earthquake below Trump's golf course. Now we're going to go over to the New Madrid seismic zone here. I just pulled the earthquakes on the New Madrid. I just want to see what is at the New Madrid seismic zone actual location. There may not be anything directly here at the spot, but just to back it out, show you where we are. Here we are. We're in North America. Wait, borders and labels are turned on here. I lost my internet connection again. Lost my internet connection again. All right. Okay. Seriously, I'm not joking. My download just got cut again. I don't know if my upload is on or not, but Google has just crashed again. We don't have borders and labels now. Okay. I'm trying to show you the New Madrid seismic zone to see if there's anything here nearby that's worth mentioning. And I'll just tell you right now, right up here is the town of New Madrid. You're just going to have to take my word for it because it's frozen and you can't believe, you're just going to have to believe me, but you can't see it. This is the town of New Madrid. And then right here is a power plant, a coal-fired power plant. They built a large electrical power plant here. New Madrid power plant, earthquake on the south side. Oh, now we're back. Our internet's back again. We'll just wait for it to load. So this is a power plant, coal-fired power plant. Nothing against the power plant. Very low frequency, down in the plate, passing through the edge of the craton. All right, we're having enough internet problems all of a sudden using Starlink that I would need to plug in my land-based fiber to be able to do a quick seismic update to show you the earthquakes in the United States. And notice that the internet gets cut when it's the United States earthquakes, and I'm talking about things around the rest of the planet, and everything works just fine. Not trying to complain too hard, but this is what censorship looks like when you're on the shutdown list. And I am on that list, certainly 100%. If you're not aware of that, I could tell you stories all day long about how I got listed as disinformation by the actual federal government, and the USGS publicly came after me on social media. I had to threaten them with a lawsuit to get them to take down what they wrote about me. Anyway, they responded with a false legal claim trying to get me put in jail for 20 years. So it's not like we're actual friends. Do they shut people down for talking about? Oh yeah. They kill your internet, kill your power to your house, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, for real. They even sent flyovers and Black Hawk helicopters and stuff. For real. Anyway, do you guys have an earthquake plan? I'm doing this because I want the whole science community to understand there is a wave that's going around the planet, and it's dropping off the earthquakes along the way. And if you know where something's coming from generally, and you know it's going to generally, then you can plot that like a flood or plotting a wave in a wave tank. And if you understand that the wave that we're talking about is being contained in the wave tank here in the West Pacific. Wait, what do we got going on here? A new 5 has just struck in Japan as I'm talking here. Hold on. Ah, perfect. Perfect. This is a perfect example. So the new 5 that just broke off here, let's look at our smaller earthquakes. We have to look at the 4s and greater, and we'll turn down the rings just so you can see it. We'll go back a few days. There we go. So the new 5 here, marked in white, has popped off at the halfway point between the 2 previous earthquakes that existed when I started this update. So if I'm talking about a standing wave, it's a perfect example when an earthquake pops off at the middle point between the 2 previous earthquakes that were previously there at the start of the broadcast. All right, enough complaining. You need to have an earthquake plan. You need to know what to do when an earthquake strikes, of course. And don't run around screaming earthquake. Chances are everybody around you already knows an earthquake's happening. Not trying to be too sarcastic, but I watch all these videos of, I've never been in an earthquake myself, knock on wood. Never even felt an earthquake of any kind, which is pretty weird. I don't ever want to, but I've seen enough videos of people running around screaming earthquake when everybody already knows an earthquake's happening. And really, they should be taking shelter underneath a table or a desk to protect themselves from falling objects. Overseas, people are told to run outside. And that's because of the structures they're in are not exactly earthquake sufficient to withstand a large earthquake. And so they're told to go outside. In the United States and Western, we're told to stay inside and to take shelter underneath something. If you run outside, you could be running into a worse situation where something's falling from 200 feet up, something small that's falling at terminal velocity, it's going to hit you. And you would have been better off just getting hit by some drywall that's falling inside or something, or not at all by being underneath a table or a desk. But a table or a desk, of course, is not going to be sufficient if you're in a collapsing structure. So you have to know what kind of structures you're in to begin with. Stone stacked structures, cinder block, brick, unreinforced masonry, as it's called, where it's just held together by mortar. Now, if you're in a building that's concrete, or if you've got the reinforced rebar inside, a lot of times those are sufficient to withstand a large earthquake. While the building itself gets completely devastated, it still stays standing. So you got to know your surroundings. Now, the thing you can do, the thing everybody can do, is to put together an emergency kit. It shouldn't even cost much or anything. You should have most of these things in your house. So an extra change of clothes, an extra set of shoes, socks. You should have a flashlight and batteries so you don't have to use your phone. A way to charge those things, rechargeable stuff. These things can be purchased at a dollar store even for minimal cost. It might not be the highest quality, but you're only looking to get through a few days with your emergency kit. Now, the longer term stuff, the food and the water, you need to be prepared for that. The past several years should have taught you, just with the lockdowns and the store runs and all the stuff that happened, that you should have a stockpile of food and some basic water filtration or some way to store water so that you're not left with nothing. That's a proper use of a double negative, I think. Okay, we're going to round it out here and just remind everybody I am on X if you want to find me. My I'm Dutch Since page was shut down. I don't know why. We'll try and get it restored, but my I'm Dutch Since page was shut down on X. I still have my main Real Dutch Since page, the one I've had for 15 years. We're also uploading this over on YouTube so that my YouTube audience knows I'm still around. I have been laying low. Earthquake forecasting and what I do became one of the more controversial topics. The media came after me, government came after me, and I'm laying low to see what happened over the past several weeks and months leading up to this. What was going to happen to me? Am I going to be allowed to do it or not? The answer came back. No, I'm not allowed. I'm going to get shut down and community noted and everything. But my reply to that is science. There's a spread of something going across the plates. I've already showed it to you. Anybody who says there isn't is a liar or mistaken. I don't want to be personal. I mean, anybody who says there's no spread of earthquakes going across the plates is incorrect. Look at the screen. And they're going and following the plate boundaries, and they're equidistantly spaced. And if something's going from somewhere, from point A to point B, and you know which way it's going to go, following the plate boundaries, and you see that it's all the same size, you can plot a trajectory for it, aka forecasting. So it's the weekend. We're probably going to round this out. I'm going to go upload it to YouTube and X. We'll see you guys back here if anything else goes down, and I am back, so to speak. If anything else goes down, I'll be here. Peace out.